Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to The Unattached. She's Theresa Resga,
He's Ryan Stanley.
and we are here for episode 6 of The Unattached.
One more than five.
All right? We were just as starting our conversation today, we decided to maybe touch on the ego because it is something that is so present in so many of us on a
Yes.
regular basis. And we figured it could be a good topic for conversation.
And the question that prompted this was my question to you, as per usual, at this point. I think I actually said, so like the ego is when you're like attached to things and stuff, right?
But you followed through with how people think about you, how
Yeah.
you should, right?
You're attached to the way that you are perceived by the people around you, by the world around you, and also attached to the way that you see yourself.
Yeah.
Which, yeah.
So, why does this serve us or not serve us?
Is that a question that you want an answer to?
Yes, a potential answer to.
What is the...
Why is the ego such a factor in everything that we do? Why is it important to us what other people think?
You know, I don't, I'm not sure. So I remember back in high school, some point way back in those days,
Way back before the war.
before the war, we lost a lot of good men out there
know.
to the Yankees. Someone had mentioned like, oh, Theresa, like, someone started a rumor about you. And it was like nasty, but I remember just thinking like,
Turned out it was true.
yeah, no, get out. I don't even remember what it was. But I was like flattered. I was like, me? Someone started a rumor about me? Like,
Yeah.
really? That's kind of cool. Like, what'd they say? Oh, that's terrible. But me, really? Like, there are people who are actually taking the time to talk about me, to think about me? Really?
Right.
So
Oh,
it was.
Thank you.
It was interesting. It was my first real encounter understanding
What the ego
a little
is.
bit more about ego. Yeah. So I think, to kind of pull it back a little bit, that was just popped into my head. But I think the ego comes from potentially on some levels a need for certainty, a need to have like a mental structure and a mental organization of who you are, so you're confident and solid in that, the way you look, the way you perceive, your persona, if you will, your brand, maybe not thinking about it in that sense, but it's kind of your brand.
Yeah.
And managing that, in reality, it's really managing people's impression, perception, expectation, and view of who you are. And it creates stability. And fear, a lot of times, can be generated by a lack of stability.
Interesting. Not all I heard, meaning what kept coming from everything you said, and I agree 100%,
Sure.
was the need to be loved. Right? So if you want somebody to appreciate you physically, mentally, spiritually on some level, right? All those different things you said, what your brand is, you want to feel some form of love by the masses, by an individual. Like, why do we care what anybody else thinks? Well, because we want to feel that we're okay. We want to feel that we're lovable. And I don't mean necessarily not in a romantic sense, not
Yeah.
in a deep family sense, but just love from the sense of appreciation,
So connection.
connection. I think in general we all want to be approved, right? We're looking for approval. The ego is constantly looking for approval.
Approval, acknowledgement, validation. Yeah.
I had a conversation with a woman 2 days ago, and she said her son had recently got a divorce,
Okay.
and his wife had told another friend of hers that, she didn't want to talk to her son anymore, but they weren't, because he had only heard the wife's side of the story.
Sure. I'm familiar with this kind of thing.
Right, seen that happen.
Interesting.
So, and the mom said to me, I just wish that she would hear the other side of the story, or, my son's side of the story as well. And I just said to her, I said, listen, why do you care what this person thinks about your son? Like, what's the value there? Do you think about that person's family or any other aspects of their family?
Yeah.
And I mean, I understood why she cared, but really in the grand scheme of things, when I start to think about how much caring what other people think, and there's a very clear difference between not being rude to somebody and being aggressive, right? I mean,
yeah.
you certainly want to be concerned for people's feelings and not abrasive,
Yeah.
as opposed to. But I'm saying if you don't care what anybody thinks, you know what your mission is, you know who you are, you know how you want to show up. That is that removal of ego, or is that more just from a stoicism perspective, or
I don't know. I mean, so the stoic perspective on something like that, kind of dabbling in that a little bit still, it's just irrelevant. It's something to be used to your advantage. It's something
which
that,
is almost my point. So I said, well,
yeah.
why do you even care what this person thinks?
Yeah,
Well,
well,
because I care for my son. You know what? Well, who cares?
yeah.
Is your son different because of what this person who you kind of know thinks about them?
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting because if you think about it, I see people in cars doing things on my 2-mile commute to work. And I look over and they'll stop doing what it is because all of a sudden they're being watched.
Right?
And it's like, no, it's cool. Like,
Or yeah,
carry on.
Yeah, like you pull up and so I'll tell you. Sometimes I've got my I am statements that I listen to in the car,
Uh-huh.
and so I will get off the highway, get off the parkway, and I've got my top down and I'm driving and it's loud, right?
And just for our listening audience here, the I am statements, this list, we've covered the I am statements, I think, in a past episode.
Episode 1, actually, I believe.
This is true. Very good.
Thank you.
Go
Thank
team.
you. I'll take a high five.
There it is. But it's Ryan's voice talking to Ryan with phish in the background playing.
Right.
Like an ambient kind of jam going on. But it's you talking to you.
Yeah.
And it's blasting out of your
Car speakers.
top-down convertible.
Yeah.
On the parkway.
Saying, I am happy, I am healthy, I am, all these different things.
Money flows to me often, easily, and abundantly from several different sources.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's about a 45-minute audio of this, and I listen to it on my way to work twice a week, just because I feel like it sets me up good for the day. It reminds my subconscious of who I want to be, and who I am, and who I'm creating. But when I get off the parkway and I go through the little toll there, and I come up to a light, and I'm sitting there, and there's all sorts of cars around me.
This is rush hour.
Yeah, it's like 8:45, and everybody's doing the same thing. Like, I certainly look to my right, there's people with their windows down. Sometimes I'll even watch people put their window down so they can hear, like, what's coming out of my car.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, oh, I'm that guy. And I do turn it down a little bit. Like, so the ego does show up as something. Like, I'm embarrassed what some dude who I will never, ever see again, who, cares suddenly what I am doing. And then it's a little embarrassing maybe in certain circles, hypothetically.
Yeah, so I think that's the difference.
So that's the ego.
Yeah, so that would be ego, the use of the E word, embarrassment. And it's self-conscious self-awareness that has an internal judgment attached to it. That would definitely, I think, as far as my knowledge of ego goes, that would be ego. But if it were, oh, I'm turning this down because I feel like it's loud and I want to be courteous of my fellow motorists on the road,
right,
that's different.
Right.
It's not ego. I had a similar kind of moment, same but different, where I took it the other way, I think. I thought I was really cool.
So you turned something up.
Kind of.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I mentioned to you about this. I was riding my bike up to my dojo last Friday.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it was hot. And it's uphill the whole way there.
Both ways?
No, it's so funny. But it's uphill the way there. So I'm in like my gym, like these gym shorts. They're like kind of small. They're not like zebra print, but they're black with like these white stripes. And they're not very big. They're made for biking, for movement, for gym. And the pair of shoes that I have paint all over them and one got bleached?
I do.
So my shoes are 2 different colors. The only socks that I could find were neon green.
Nice.
I'm wearing like a gym shirt. I have a backpack with my gi kind of hanging out. I have a clean canteen attached to my backpack, so it sounds like a cowbell. And I'm listening to I think it was merengue,
nice.
Spanish music.
Feeling it.
With these over-the-ear headphones.
Were you wearing a helmet?
I was not wearing a helmet, but I did have neon orange sunglasses on.
That was my next question.
And I'm on a bike. Yeah, and I'm like, so cool. And I'm just riding my bike. And I live in a very kind of, I guess it's a bit uppity area. And most of the people who ride their bikes around are like high school kids or, whatever. So then there's just me, and I can hear my own music blaring through my headphones, and it's like, it doesn't look It just all these different odd pieces and the two different color shoes and the neon green socks and I'm riding my bike. And like I just feel people's eyes watching me.
Who is this person?
And I was just like, I don't know what to do here. Like I stopped at a red light because I have to ride up the highway quite
Right.
literally. And I'm at a red light. And I just like, a guy rolled down his window and was like, what's going on over here? I was like, carry on, sir.
What is all this?
Yeah, and I was like, I'm so cool. Like, I just don't care. But I realized the judgment that I put on myself of like, I'm really cool right now. That's
Right.
ego.
Right? And someone's projecting out there to say, I'm cooler than you.
Well, I think
Not you.
I was going to say, I didn't go to the I'm cooler than you. It was just, I guess like a positive and anabolic self-judgment of like, I'm really cool right now with my mismatched shoes and I don't care.
Yeah,
It
but
makes
is
me
that-
cool.
Is that ego or is that confidence?
Ooh. I mean, when I got there, I got off my bike, my legs were like jelly. It was 1,000 degrees. My heart was, I got there, I was like, I am no longer cool. I am now
I was cool
a
little
sweaty
bit
mess.
At the light.
I literally sat there for about like 5 minutes. A couple of guys were like, can we get you some water or something?
Anything?
Yeah, I became uncool. So I don't know, maybe confidence versus ego. So tell me the
Meaning-
difference.
Well, yes, I'm exploring it right now myself. So I didn't. So when I hear ego, it sees. I hear I'm better than you.
Okay.
Right? My ego is putting me on a pedestal in my own mind. Like I'm saying that I'm better than you, or anyone else,
Sure.
or who happens to be in this description of conversation. If my ego gets hurt, it's because I'm being told that I'm not better than you, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not, I'm not feeling love. To my earlier point.
Sure.
Confidence is not saying I'm better than you. It's just saying I am.
Okay.
Like I am confident in who I am. I'm not concerned whether I'm better or worse than you, or there is no better or worse than you. I'm just confident in my ability to be at this moment.
And
that's kind of what I was hearing more of what you were saying. Like you weren't, you know what I mean? You weren't saying I'm better than you, dude, in the car at the light. You were just saying I'm enjoying life as I am right now, and I feel pretty cool about it. If I saw somebody else who looked just like this, I think they were cool too. Like I'm confident in the ability of who I am.
Yeah. Someone who looked just like this. One shoe is bleached.
Yeah.
Like.
But I mean, that's how you were
It's just
feeling. You were
fun.
feeling confident in your
Yeah.
being.
It was kind of, and also it was kind of like a looking glass self. Like it was like, oh man, you're hilarious. Like, come on, really? This is what you're doing? Like, you're cool with this, T-Money? Like, really? It's like, yeah, I'm cool with it. Whatever. This is what I got. It's what I'm working with.
Life's an adventure.
Yeah. It's interesting. So, you did mention the idea of love. So, looking for it, seeking it out.
Even not intentionally. I was just, comparing the idea of anytime your ego gets hurt or anytime you're around somebody and you feel like they don't like you, right? So if we take out the word love to make it so powerful, I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, so that like acceptance feeling, that feeling of being part of the fold, connected, however you want to put it, love, connection. And, I always go back to love and fear, fight or flight,
Yeah.
anabolic, catabolic, positive, negative. So kind of splitting that dichotomy. So you could use love, connection, whatever the case might be. But where does the ego have a place when there is self-love?
I don't understand the question. So tell me more about self-love in this context.
God, you're dumb.
I know. My ego's killing me now.
How could you? I'm so sorry. So if you're saying the ego shows up when you don't feel accepted, when you want to be perceived or heard a certain way or acknowledged, or you're looking for that love, that acceptance, if you give yourself that love, if you give it to you,
Right.
it's self-love. It's appreciation of self.
Yep.
How does the ego live in that space? Can it live in that space? Because if you're looking for love, but you're giving yourself love, are
Right.
you...
So
Yeah.
that's almost my point. Yeah, so maybe not. Meaning if I know that I have enough love for myself and it's pure love. Like I don't need approval from anybody else. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I don't care what this woman thinks of my son. I don't care about, these things because I know what I love and I know that I have confidence / self-love for myself. Yeah, it feels like it reduces the ego because you have no concern what others think of you. Right? And that's where the ego comes from. It's like, if I'm angry at somebody, it's because they're not seeing things the way I see them, right? Or they acted a certain way, which I believe made me feel this way.
Yeah. So it's interesting because, so there are a couple of ways that I think about that, right? Because there are people who will forcefully tell you that they don't care what you think.
Right.
They will be very,
Thou dost protest too much.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, so there's that idea of like, I have to tell you that I don't have an ego.
Right.
It's kind of like telling you I'm humble.
Right.
I'm a good guy. It's like, nah, if you
My
gotta say
biggest
you're...
quality is my humility.
Yeah, I'm just so humble. Like, honestly, I feel like if you even bring up the word humble, it's just, it's not. It's like, come on. It's like, you know.
Right.
So, same, but different. Like, so the idea of, hey, I don't care what you think. Like, being forceful about it, the whole protesting too much.
Yeah.
And then it's interesting. So you meet people who, they just are who they are. You know? It's like this interesting dichotomy. And I kind of, like, circling back, it was just a thought, but circling back, we had a conversation the other day, you, myself, and another woman, and you actually said to her, I was there, this was a different conversation. I think she learned some information about how someone thought about her or something, and you basically said, well, like, if you didn't know, would anything have changed?
Right.
And she was like, teary-eyed, and she stopped, and she was like, no. And you're like, well, why do you care now then? That was a moment. It was
what
really...
would it be like if you stopped giving a shit what people think?
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah,
So
it's been a really big lesson for the past couple of weeks for me, actually.
Yeah, tell me about it.
No, I mean, just that. Like, I'm really owning into that. Like, stop caring what people... Like, I know what my mission is. I know what my outcome is. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm creating. And I also know what it takes to get there. I know aspects of what it takes to get there. I think stuff hasn't yet been revealed on my journey, so to speak.
Ooh, you just got so fruity,
I know.
fluffy,
Wooey.
wooey, that's
Yes.
the word, fluffy, spiritual,
But
granola.
meaning there's stuff that I can't know because it hasn't occurred yet.
Sure.
But I believe that by having a North Star and creating a focus, and then on a daily basis reminding myself that through I am statements or whatever it is, that I'm creating that inevitable future with no doubt, right?
So that's why I do stuff like this.
Yes. And this is for our listeners.
Oh, I forgot about the whole thing we were doing here.
They can't see.
So I have this sticky note that has actually come up a couple times today because I'm kind of proud of it, but I'm also impressed with myself. Ego, I guess.
Right, the ego's hanging out here tonight.
We have a long weekend coming up of 4 days, and I have mapped out my entire weekend.
Got it planned.
Like, quite literally, like, the sticky note of what each day is, time frames. Blocked out. I have my weekend objectives, then I have Theresa's musts, and then I have the bonus round.
Non-negotiables.
Yeah, but I'm not attached to, like we were talking about, I'm not very attached to any of these things necessarily having to happen, but to keep on, like you talk about the North Star, knowing who you're becoming and all these things, for me, having that tangible piece of paper that I can look at and just be like, all right, this is my future. But other things can happen, to your point.
So let's just say somebody came in, for the follow through the conversation. If somebody came in and said, Theresa, somebody who you respected, let's just say, I'm trying to, and you loved, you liked, whatever. There's an aspect of somebody you admired, and they came in and said, Theresa, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, and I can't believe you're spending your time not only creating that, but then talking about it.
It's
and showing it to people. Right?
Yeah. Hey Ryan, look at this.
Right. So if they said that to you, this is what I'm talking about as far as, so then the ego says, oh my gosh, I really like and respect this person. Am I crazy? Am I wrong? Should I not have done this?
So here's the thing. I'm going to tell you what my reaction is because that actually happened today. I was like, yeah, I know I'm crazy. Like, I know I'm nuts. Who does this? Like, come on. Like, I'm going to type this up. I already took pictures of it and put it on the cloud just in case. Like, I'm excited about a new notebook that I have coming in to help me organize even more, Like, I understand. And then part of me is also like, dude, who else does this shit? T-Money, you're pretty cool. Like, be easy on it. You're good.
You got it down. You're moving forward.
So it's like all of the different, like, it's really interesting. I kind of, like, I had that exact experience. I looked at myself in like 4 or 5 different ways. I was like, yeah, it's not, no, it is a little crazy. But like, it's my kind of crazy. It's cool. I'm in.
But that's when it comes down
right.
to not giving a shit what people think.
Yeah.
And the less and less, like, I'm really getting to a point now where I'm learning nobody's opinion matters.
It's true. I want to say unfortunately, because for You're absolutely right. For me, it makes me almost feel like ungrounded, like untethered, unchained, like disconnected. But connect, like everything and nothing all at the same time. It's like I don't care. Your opinion is not going to change me. It's not going to do anything. But to me, it's still interesting.
Absolutely. And so that's part of the lesson that I've been getting. So it's not that anybody has useless information. I don't want to hear anybody's opinion on anything.
Yeah.
But it is taking away like the judgment aspect of it, and it puts me in more control of how much of their information I want to utilize for my journey. You know.
Sure.
So we've talked about the more, what would you say, the people you surround yourself with, and so
my gosh.
you want to surround yourself with people that have valuable information and have positive experiences and that you can learn from. And so I don't want to say that nobody's information is of any value to me and I've got it all figured out, but I do want to say that if somebody doesn't think that I'm spending enough time with them because I'm focused more on X, on building a business, on creating different types of relationships, on building my home or whatever it is, it doesn't matter to me anymore, even a little bit. So it's taking away that people pleaser piece, and know that the more I can create the life that I deserve and choose, the more I can serve those who are valued to me.
Sure. Yeah.
But so it's amazing how much power and freedom. It's like have you ever like read a quote that you may have read 100 times, but all of a sudden it shows up at the right time?
Ryan, like every day,
Yeah.
and usually a quote from you.
Right, and then it changes.
Let's be honest here.
Things.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've read it 1,000 times. Even the average of the 5 people, like that shows up so often. Yeah.
When you start thinking about it, it was a Maya Angelou. It was like, stop making someone a priority who considers you an option.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, where else is that showing up? What are my priorities? Who are my priorities? Whose priority am I? And then it came down to, does it matter?
Yeah, it really doesn't matter.
So it was a pretty powerful awareness that put me in a place of more control.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Somebody actually said a quote to me last night. They said, and I've heard this quote like 1,000 times, quite literally probably 1,000 times, was like, never take advice from somebody who you wouldn't want to trade places with.
Right.
And to me, like this person, it blew their mind. And then I was with another person who was like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing. In my head, I was like,
no shit?
Yeah, no shit, man. Like,
right.
Are you kidding me? It's so interesting. And it's the same principle. It's literally, it kind of, that takes it to a bit of an egotistical level. Like, do I really want that person's life? Like, it brings some sort of judgment in there. But to even pull it outside further, it really is like, you just don't care. Like, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. And the cool thing is like, you feel it. Like, you know it. You know the North Star. You know the directive path. You know when you're doing something that's in alignment with who you are. It fits into your beliefs, your values, all of those things. And you really know when it's not. So it's like the only person you're really fooling at that point is yourself.
And are you even?
Yeah.
Or are you just helping or giving your time and energy to somebody else that's not necessarily serving your purpose?
And people can be so lazy with their own lives. It's like, if I'm trying to, like, if I'm so excited about like my calendar sticky note and all of my objectives and stuff, but I'm telling you because I want you to think I'm productive and I want you to think I'm going to get all this stuff done and I'm going to be so awesome. Is it for me to feel a certain way, or is it, does it, what's the point? Right. Like, is there actual action behind that, or is it just to make me feel good?
I had a coaching client who, I think I told you about this already, but she was like, I said, so I coach musicians and people in the music industry. And so this is a woman who's got her, she's got a band. She does well. She's a professional musician. Like, that's her job. That's her only job. It's her only income. Some of it's not all just from her band. It's like she'll do like a piano bar. She'll do like some session works like on piano. She does these different things.
She's a musician. Yeah.
Yeah. But, then I said, she's like, but I really just need to get my career off the ground. And I was like, well, tell me more about it. How committed are you? She's like, oh, Ryan, I'm so committed. Like, this is my life. This is my dream. This is my passion. I'm like, awesome. So, how many hours last week do you think you spent watching TV? Right? And I said, and I thought I was being extreme. I was like, what do you think, like 20? She's like, maybe, if not more, if not a lot. Like 20 was low for her response.
Wow. Okay.
And she's like, I watched so much Netflix and none of it is good. I'm like, okay, so does that sound like somebody who's interested or somebody who's committed?
Oh my gosh. That's
right?
Incredible.
And she's like, oh, I never thought about it that way, which is cool and makes sense now that she would.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't have that lesson, and now she has through a conversation.
It's the awareness, yeah.
Yeah. But to your point, it's like people are just not, people believe they're showing up, but they're not with their own lives.
So remember when we first met, we were talking about coaching and stuff, and then a year or two later, you were like, yeah. And I was in the same way. I was like, oh, yeah. I thought I was really, like, doing the thing when I was back then, like, a year or two ago. And then, like, a year later, it's like, I realized I'm still on the path.
Right.
You know, I think I'm doing it, but there's always that opportunity to keep growing. But if you kind of just stay in that same place and the Netflix and like, it's like, really? Like, come on.
What do I really... And I even said to her, I said, listen, I'm not saying never watch TV, never relax, never find something entertaining and hang out and enjoy yourself from a different way, feed your brain, feed your right brain. I'm just saying, know how you're showing up for, you know, you're going to get the results that you're bringing to the table every day.
Oh my gosh, you just made me pop into my head. So feeding your right brain. I scheduled in time to be spontaneous in my weekend calendar. It's just
That
funny.
doesn't even make sense.
I know. It does to me. But that's a really great point. That's a really great point. I think it's Eric Thomas, E.T. He's I call him like the
pastor, the hip hop pastor.
Yeah, the hip hop pastor or
hip-hop
preacher.
yeah.
He's really good when you want to get fired up. Like you want to get mad and angry and use all that to go forward on something. Like I cranked that guy. Like this morning I was listening to a loop of something else, but he was right next. And as soon as it started, I felt it. Like I felt it coming up. But he's got a really good kind of tidbit. He talks about
the drowning.
Yeah, he talks about having this athlete. And he's like, yeah, meet me at the beach at 6 a.m. And the guy's like, I want to be the best in the world. He's like, all right, meet me at the beach at 6 a.m. So they walk out to the water. He's there. It's cold. He's like, you know, put your bathing suit on, meet me in the water. They get up to their ankles. And the kid's like, I don't get it. Like, what's going on? And he's like, just follow me out a little further. They go to knee deep. And they keep going, get up to the chest. And the kid's like getting antsy. He's like, what's going on here? Like, I'm a football player. Like, I want to get shit done. Like, come on.
I'm going to start doing push-ups or run on the beach.
Yeah,
what
like,
are we doing here? Yeah.
What's the secret? And basically, all of a sudden, this kid finds himself underwater. And it turns out, you know, like, he's got a hand on his head and he's being held under. And the kid is, like, literally fighting for breath. And he just keeps holding him under. And, you know, at the point where it's like, okay, like, he's really going to, like, kind of pass out here.
I guess I'll let him up.
Lets him up. And the kid's like, what the heck? Like, what did you do? Like, what happened? And the guy looks at him and says, you know, when you want to succeed as badly as you wanted to breathe in that moment, then come talk to me.
Right.
And that, to me, is the difference between interest and commitment. Right.
Right. When you wake up in the morning, what are you thinking about?
Exactly.
What is your intention?
And the morning sets your entire intention for the entire day. Yeah. Like, that's why I always joke, it looks like a life coach lives where I live. Like, literally smack right in front of my face, there's a card. It says, today you are a magnet for divine intelligence, unlimited abundance, and unconditional love.
I'll take one of those.
And that's the first. And you got me into the gratitude in the morning thing.
Gratitude. You know what? We're short on time. But yeah, maybe next time we'll talk a little bit about lapse of gratitude.
Lapse of gratitude. Maybe next time we'll just do a whole thing on gratitude. How about that?
I love gratitude.
Oh, I'm grateful for
really, really grateful for gratitude.
What a time to be alive.
It is.
But thank you for kind of working through ego with me a little bit. That
was fun. Good little
interesting
conversation, right?
Yeah.
You know what? You're really good at this, Theresa.
Ryan, I'm very humble.
But you're really a great podcaster.
I'm so humble. You're such a good guy.
Thank you. We love you, audience. She's Theresa Rezga.
He's Ryan Stanley.
Check us out on social media. You know the drill. You know where to find us. Leave us comments. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on theunattached.com. YouTube, yep. So check us out. Leave comments.
The Facebook.
We want to hear what you have to say. We want this to be for you as much as it is for us.
Yeah.
I'll leave you with that.
Good stuff.
Whoosh.
Whoosh.